Oh yeah, there's drops for this. It's gonna play this time.
Okay, I believe it.
Welcome to the Inner Hoe Uprising, the podcast about sex, love, and dating from the perspective of me, Sam, one black, non-monogamous, pansexual feminist hoe who lives in New York City and whose pronouns are she and her, and who got the drop perfectly right for the first time. Thank you.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
Oh my God. And me, Rob the God, one agender feminist firefighter with a fatty, pronouns they, them, and daddy, who also did a shoulder roll to the intro.
You can only see that on YouTube, niggas. A lot of fun content on this side. Every episode of the Inner Hoe Uprising works like this. Myself and my lovely rotating co-hosts talk about sex, love, and dating as it pertains to current events in the world, our lives, and yours. And occasionally we hit you with interviews with insightful folks or do deep dive episodes on a topic of our choice or hybrids. On this episode, we're talking all about the science of hormones, trans-affirming healthcare, and the big old white supremacist patriarchal capitalist conspiracy to stamp out trans folks in the United States, and why we're not taking it, nigga.
Yes, and if you would like to follow along with the conversation had in this podcast on social media, you can do so by using the hashtag #InnerHoeUprising so we can see it, and the hashtag PodIn so other people can see.
I don't know why I was doing that.
It made sense. If it, I appreciated it.
It was on beat, right? Okay, anyway.
Thank you. I hope that you're watching YouTube so you can see Sam Crump for no good reason. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can do so at Inner Hoe Uprising without the G on Twitter, Inner Hoe Uprising on Instagram and Facebook, and you can join our Facebook group by searching Inner Hoe Uprising Community. That's spelled CUMMUNITY. And you can head to innerhoeuprising.com to pay a hoe.
Yes, and if you are on YouTube witnessing these lovely beings right here in front of you, and you're freaking with the vision that you see, and if you're down with the vibes, you can do us a favor and hit subscribe. If you're supportive of the hoes and want to see our success spike all the way to the top, do us a favor and click like all the way at the bottom of the video. If you want to keep the conversation going during your time spent, do us a favor and comment your thoughts, opinions, constructive criticism, all those kinds of things. And please click that like bell. Otherwise, you're going to hell.
Montero,
I don't know.
Hell.
Montero hell?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the other hell. I was just going to make up a new hell, but I didn't know which one it was. Maybe with him from Powerpuff Girls.
What about a hell with Prince Philip? That's the only other person in it.
That's an awkward hell.
Yeah, that's what it's hell.
And he's just in his final stages, like that picture, that meme, and it's like, okay, nigga, you gonna say something? He's like, no, I can't. That was a dark joke. Anyway, do you want to pay us to speak virtually at your school or conference about sex positivity, Black feminism, podcasting, or other kinds of topics that we discuss on this here show? Or would you like us to host a consent, pleasure, or dating virtual workshop for your organization? If you would love to, we would love to be there, so you can book us at ihupodcast@gmail.com. This can be virtual or in person once we're vaccinated. Let's get into our first segment of the day, and that is called Hoe of the Week.
Grandma, yeah. Are you a hoe?
When he says, yeah, I don't know why he says that. This is a misogynistic pastor, by the way. So I imagine he has a cane and he's like, yeah. But I don't know why the grandchildren are. Maybe they took her cane. I don't know.
There's a lot of questions. We don't need the answers.
Yeah, there you go. But what we do need an answer to is what this segment is, and it is Hoe of the Week. This is a segment where we shout out the homies who have supported Inner Hoe Uprising in the past week. Hoes of the Week get special nicknames, and the game, if they choose to participate, is to guess the meaning behind their nicknames. So this week we have Katrina B, aka 5, who became a patron on Patreon. But I feel like Katrina's new name should be "What was that nigga wearing?" Because that is a very important question that Katrina had for us in our hangout before this episode. And I too want to know, what was that nigga wearing?
Oh my god.
What was that Tori's question? I don't remember.
No, I don't remember. It was Katrina?
Yeah.
All right. What was that nigga wearing? Thank you.
We got Ryan L, aka Deadpool, who became a patron on Patreon. We got Susanna M, who was a hoe last week and is a hoe this week once again, aka Montgomery, who became a patron on Patreon. We got Sierra D, aka Nevada, who paid a hoe and said, what did Sierra say? Sierra said, I absolutely love your podcast. And Sierra, we absolutely love you.
No.
And we have Katie L, aka Liebe, who became a patron on Patreon. Also, quick shout out to Hotaku, aka Scarlet, who also did guess the meaning behind their nickname. And I'm sorry for not acknowledging that in the previous week. And this is just something that's in my head. Like, Scarlet didn't say anything. No one made any fuss about this. I just feel bad about that. So shout out to Hotaku.
This is inner conscious.
Exactly. Guilt. This is what keeps me up at night, folks. If you would like,
in bed, like
I messed up. If you would like to be a hoe that we can get a cool nickname, here are some things you can do. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can feature us in an article you've written or shout us out on social media. These are non-monetary ways you can support us. We love monetary and non-monetary support, and we understand in these uncertain times that many folks are not able to support monetarily. Don't ever spend your last dollars on us. Put you and yours first. But if you can spare some change, you can donate to us by going to PayPal. Our PayPal is paypal.me/innerho, or you can become a patron by going to patreon.com/innerhouprising. The links to both of which are in the show notes. Friendly reminder that if you do become a patron on Patreon for $2 a month, you can participate in things like our Slack chat, our patron only film nights, and for $5 a month, you can join our Monday night Zoom hangouts, which will be changing pretty soon because Mondays are no longer feasible for me. And at any Patreon tier, you can receive access to our episodes a few days early, entries to our workshops and parties, entries to our pre-episode hangouts. This past hangout, we just dragged a nigga who Rob went on a date with, and it was really fun. It was really fun. And Rob got some good advice too.
I did get some good advice. You were some great patrons in this house. Oh, you could also read my article if you're on Patreon.
Oh yeah,
on any tier.
Article. Yes, that is available on any tier, and it's a good article. And there's a nice little picture of Rob there too.
A great picture. I was looking cute, but you can't see it unless you're on Patreon.
It's behind the paywall. This is the paywall.
This is a very small paywall.
I mean, if you just pay $1, you can see.
Yeah, it's also a small paywall. It's a small paywall. It's a small paywall.
Literally a small paywall. Up next, Hore-moans. What the heck are they? No, that's not what's up next. Up next, the conspiracy to overturn and just pretty much extinguish trans rights and transness in this country and how you can fight against said things. But first, we here at the Inner Hoe Uprising want you to live your best life on all fronts: sexual, physical, spiritual, emotional, you name it. And shout out to, what's her name? Shirley Taylor?
I don't know.
Shirley Gospel. And that can be pretty difficult when you're living in a world that oppresses your very being. You might need some help along the way. I know I do, which is why I appreciate my favorite online teletherapy service, BetterHelp. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist, and you can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. There's a broad range of expertise available. You got grief counselors, you got relationship experts and all that kind of stuff. And that may not be locally available in many areas. Plus, the service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account at any time and send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp, along with we here at the Inner Hoe Uprising, want you to start living a happier life today. And if you're looking for some reviews, you can visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. So you can visit betterhelp.com/IHU, that's better HELP, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Interho Uprising listeners, that is you, right now, this very moment, can get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/IHU. That's better HELP.com/I as in inner, H as in ho, and U as in uprising. Let's get into the show.
Yeah, let's do it. Go Nova, yeah.
Is Nova dancing in the background?
Speak. Earth.
Welcome to the Inner Dog Uprising, the podcast about dogs, and
cats and squirrels.
Dogs, cats, and squirrels. Yeah, so we're starting today with a segment that we call Politics, which hasn't aired in a whole year, but it's back. That's not the right. Oh my God, what is that? Not me exporting the wrong thing. This is so embarrassing. Oh no. I did this like a couple of hours before we recorded. Let me find the right one.
I'll be here.
Here we go. It's coming.
Another smooth exercise.
There we go. I'm so annoyed.
Just another smooth exercise in political manipulation, deceit and deception, callousness and indifference to our individual problems, and the disgusting playing of divisive politics.
That is a drop of our dearly departed ancestor, Shirley Chisholm. And I'm so sorry for putting Cardi B at the top of that. Not that Cardi B isn't deserving of being in the same space with Shirley Chisholm. That was just merely a mistake.
Yeah, just not that one. Not that time.
I'm like, why is this 51 seconds? Anyway. All right. So Politics is the segment where we talk about legislation or public officials that affect sex, relationships, LGBTQ folks, and or sex workers. Today, we're talking about the fact that it's been a record year for anti-transgender legislation. So we're going to give a content warning. This section of the episode will deal with transphobia. Check the show notes for time codes to skip this section. Nothing is in explicit detail though, so we'll let you know that as well. So as of April 7th, 2021, 83 anti-transgender pieces of legislation have been introduced into the 2021 state legislative session, surpassing the 2020 total of 79 and marking the highest number of anti-transgender bills in the history of this country. So many of these bills fall into two categories. There's your anti-transgender sports ban, which aim to prevent transgender student athletes from participating on teams or activities that align with their gender. So like a trans girl can't play on the girls' tennis team, for example. And then you have anti-transgender medical ban type bills, which aim to prevent or even criminalize parents of transgender youth from seeking trans-affirming healthcare, like puberty blockers, for example, which we'll be discussing in the science portion of this episode a little bit later with Rob. There are also other categories like religious exemption laws that aim to allow entities, sometimes these are state contracted entities, which means they're getting fucking public dollars, the right to discriminate against folks because the person's identity goes against the entity's religion. So for example, in Texas right now, there's a bill that's been proposed that, if passed, would allow a pharmacy, a pharmacist, or a pharmacy technician the decision to not dispense or sell a drug like puberty blockers according to religious belief or moral conviction.
Wow.
Right.
That's a big one.
Yeah. So why is this happening, you might be asking? In short, because these niggas is wildin'. In long, this country and society as a whole, hashtag we live in a society, is based on hierarchy, and LGBTQ people and trans people specifically are on some of the lowest rungs of that hierarchy. Obviously, things like race and gender and economic status and ability also play into where you fit on that hierarchy. Intersectionality, also Wakanda forever. DMX, wow, look at
DMX. It's
three things.
Just worked his way in there, man.
Three things.
Mm-hmm.
Many people cling to that hierarchy. And then you have the conservative right who lives by that motherfucking hierarchy. So when oppressed people start gaining a little bit of rights, there's a severe and swift backlash to take away those rights and then some. So a lot of people, like, you'll see articles or like things on Twitter or whatever, and people are just like, these bills are just out of nowhere. What is up with this whole thing where they're just like, all of a sudden these people just all care about transgender girls athletes teams and things like that, but these are very much not out of nowhere. So since the 2015 Supreme Court case Oberfeld v. Hodges, the case that ruled that people had the fundamental right to marry the case that ruled that the fundamental right to marry is guaranteed to same-sex couples, these conservative niggas have been wilding the fuck out. So you might remember the bathroom bills. That's pretty much where it began. It began with this wave of bathroom bills that sought to deny transgender people the right to use bathrooms that align with their gender. Those largely didn't materialize in the way that the conservative right had hoped. And so now we're seeing the next wave of anti-transgender legislation in this country. This is not a coincidence. It's very much a concerted effort with many organizations and a lot of fucking money behind it. So rich conservative people inject money into things like anti-trans bill television and radio advertisements, law firms that represent quote unquote religious entities in court cases on the grounds of their right to discriminate, and also money being injected to political candidates who promise to adopt these kinds of policies once elected. So what's the real tea? So the real tea is that a very small percentage of people in the United States actually believe in the kind of rhetoric the conservative right is pushing. According to a March 2021 study by Public Religion Research Institute, only 7% of Americans were completely against quote unquote pro-LGBTQ policies. According to another study by the Williams Institute in 2019, 71% of respondents thought that transgender people should be protected against discrimination. 71% of participants thought transgender people should be allowed to have gender affirming surgery, and 51% of participants wanted the United States to do more to support and protect transgender people. And I'll put the links to both of those studies in the show notes so you can check out their methodologies and all that kind of good stuff. So the kinds of things that the conservative right is trying to drum up fear over isn't actually happening. Surprise, surprise. So let's take a moment to debunk some of these myths by using the Freedom for All Americans handy trans discrimination Mythbuster resource, which I will also.
All right, let's go.
Boom, boom. We firing down some myths, nigga. All right, so we got the bathroom bills. Imagine it's a video game. I would play that.
It has to be the nigga who's doing that ya ya yeet dance. So
the kid with the glasses.
Yes.
Nah, yeah, I love that kid. I wonder how he's doing. I hope he's good. All right, so bathroom bills. Let's shoot that down. So the myth is that non-discrimination protections could be used as a cover for misconduct in bathrooms. The whole men will go in bathrooms and assault women. Men do that.
Already. Bill. Since the beginning of bathroom time.
And transgender women are not men. So those two things.
There you go.
But according to Freedom for All Americans, in 21 states and more than 300 cities with LGBTQ non-discrimination protections, there has been no increase in public safety incidents in restrooms. So shit didn't even happen. Let's talk about the student athletes. The myth is that transgender women and girls have an unfair advantage in sports. The fact, however, is that 25 states have successfully implemented policies that allow transgender youth athletes and their peers to successfully participate side by side while ensuring a level playing field for all. Additionally, two of the largest sports governing bodies in the world, the NCAA and the International Olympic Committee, have adopted fully inclusive policies. Transgender athletes participate in sports for the same reasons as everyone else: to get and stay healthy, to be a part of a team, build a sense of community or belonging with their peers, and this is not written, but I'm going to include have fun. Just have some fucking fun.
And be the fucking best.
I want to be the very
best.
The quote from Freedom for All Americans continues, our laws should protect everyone, including transgender youth, not encourage discrimination. On this same tip, I want to read a quote from Trey Strangio, who is an attorney at the ACLU who worked to successfully block the implementation of a trans student athlete ban in Idaho last year, as well as several other badass things. Shout out to Chase. So Chase said in the New York Times, there's a sense that there's a victim of transness, that what we have is a speculative fear of something that hasn't materialized. They're acting like LeBron James is going to put on a wig and play basketball with fourth graders. And not one LeBron James, 100 LeBron Jameses. LeBron Jameses. Chase didn't say that. I said that, but that's so funny.
I like it.
An army of LeBron Jameses. Oh, man. In reality, you're talking about little kids who just want to play sports. They just want to get through life. And yeah, that reminds me of, because I was looking up a bunch of these bills and stuff like that. And I came across one that was like, kids kindergarten to college, and I'm just like, kindergarten, like what are you fucking scared of?
All kids look the same in kindergarten.
They fully all do look the same. Like if a kid has long hair, you just ID them as a girl.
Yes.
Like
biologically, there's the only difference is their genitalia.
They're small. They're just small people.
Just small individual beings that you project your fucking
people
shit
really
onto.
do have this fear of this big ass LeBron James ass fucking kindergartner just like, yo, pass me the rock. It's not what's
God, that's such a funny thought because he's so tall. That would make a great commercial to protect trans kids, but it's
that's another thing though. It's just like people are, and this is not a thought that fully fleshed out, but people assume that people who are born, and I'm trying to get away from this terminology, but for the sake of explaining this, people assume that people who are assigned male at birth are just these big ass motherfuckers. But like LeBron James is an anomaly on many fronts.
Quite literally. Not
just because of how well he plays, which is like 1 in a fucking billion, but also just like how he's built. Yes. Most people don't look like that.
No.
AMAB or AFAB.
No.
The fuck?
It's like he is quite an anomaly. His wingspan is fucking ridiculous, and you never realize how big these niggas are until you see them in real life.
These are some big ass
fucking
niggas,
giants. Yeah. No, I actually know in my entire existence.
I don't know anybody as big as LeBron James.
I know probably like personally know 5 people above 6 feet.
There you go.
And none of them are in my family.
There you go.
Niggas be gassing them.
OD gassing it. So there's that. And that also, it warrants a whole different episode and conversation. On this episode, after I talk about this, we're going to kind of zero into the trans affirming healthcare bit, but there's a lot to say about why these fears against trans student athletes are bullshit. But to debunk another myth, let's get into the trans affirming healthcare part. The myth, gender affirming care for transgender youth is dangerous. Fact, this myth displays a fundamental lack of understanding about best practice medical care for transgender youth. Best practice medical care for transgender youth, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Medical Association, and other leading medical authorities, simply delays puberty until young people are old enough to make their own decisions about who they are. Parents and their providers, not politicians and pundits, should decide what healthcare is in the best interest of a patient. And so we're getting to the part about what you can do if this upsets you and you don't want these things to happen anymore. First and foremost, I will say don't get got. So this is a term that I just developed, but I don't want everybody to be, or anybody to be a, yeah, you know what, that is bad kind of motherfucker. So by that, I mean, don't be the kind of person who falls for fear mongering or misinformation. The 7% of people who are pushing this kind of legislation are banking on that. Like that is the purpose of what they're doing. That is why they are injecting money into radio ads and stuff like that. They want you to be a little mama. Did you see that clip of Little Mama? Fucking out of her ass.
No, I only saw like I saw a Instagram story thing that she wrote. I did see something, but I like opened it. She said something wild and I turned it off.
That's all you needed to see. So basically
silly.
She is I'll just read what I have.
Yeah.
So she has fallen into this belief that the parents of trans kids are engaging in quote unquote irresponsible healthcare practices. That's what she's doing. And like all of these people who comment about Zaya Wade and Zaya Wade's genitals, even though Zaya Wade doesn't talk about her genitals. First of all, she's a child. Fucking, I was gonna say LeBron James. Oh my god, her father is.
You just can't help it.
her father, 100 LeBron James is not. The fucking Gabby Union don't talk about Zaya Wade's genitals, and all of a sudden people are just like, people, little Boosie, don't remove the da 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 da, and just talking about the genitals of a child, and it's like nobody has said that, and that's not what's going on, and that's not what I just read. That's not what medical professionals suggest. So that's just not what's happening. So you're falling into these kinds of myths and misconceptions. Another myth and misconception that people fall into is that these young girl athletes are just being fucking trampled by 100 LeBron Jameses in 5th grade. So what I would like for you to do, we just need a skit of that though, because it is.
Yeah, I wish that I had the talent to make that. But I don't.
Fucking resources. You need 100 LeBron Jameses. That's a lot of mouths to feed.
It could be like us, not that tall, and then like really, really, like one really, really small child, like a baby, like a Nova, like dog, and we're LeBron James.
Just straight up dunking on them.
It's OD.
I'm gonna give them like a little badminton racket and have my tennis racket and just be like, boom, bitch. Yeah, nigga.
You fucking bum.
You small child, get off the court. Boo. Yeah, that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening.
Definitely not.
But yeah, I would like you to recognize that this is an old ass playbook to keep people in line in the American hierarchy. So let's take a trip of who else was, yeah, you know what? That is bad, motherfuckers. So up first, we got the poor white farmers who believe that they were poor because America is and believe that they were poor not because America is and has been a country that benefits the wealthy, but because big scary blacks are taking opportunities and our women. Those are, yeah, you know what? That is bad, motherfuckers. And they were wrong. And then they made the KKK. And they're still alive and kicking today. See why that's bad? Some other, yeah, you know what, that is bad, motherfuckers. We got the people who support anti-sex work legislation based in the false belief that all or the majority of sex workers are being trafficked. You got the support the wall and other anti-immigrant policy type people because they took our jobs.
No, it just ain't no jobs.
Fucking myths all around. And for our homeboy DMX, we got to shout out or not shout out the people who support things like the war on drugs and the criminalization of drug use as opposed to accessible healthcare for people who struggle with substance addiction. So yeah, you know what, that is bad. People are ignorant, pathetic agents of white supremacist patriarchal capitalism, and we just don't want you to be like that.
No, don't be like that.
We want you to be better.
Be better. Be
Please
you. Be
better.
beautiful.
There you go. Also, if there is a, yeah, you know what, that is bad motherfucker in your life, and you are not trans, because I don't want trans people to feel like they have to do the labor. But if you're a cisgender person, do some fucking labor right now. So if there is a, yeah, you know what, that is bad motherfucker in your life who is spouting out anti-trans rhetoric, you can snatch them up real quick. You can snatch them up. You can let them know what it is, just the same way that we debunk those myths. I'm going to put that link in the show notes, that Mythbuster from, what is it, Freedom for All Americans. And you can just whip that out.
Yep.
Be like, hey,
boom.
Wrong.
It's right here.
Respectfully.
Here's right
fucking
here.
Wrong. Read.
And I want you to try to prove your point now with the facts.
And then either they'll just be like, oh, okay. Or they'll like, double down.
Yeah,
and that's just not the kind of nigga you need in your life.
Yep. Once you feel the violence coming, it's like, okay, cool. I did my part, and now we just don't have to talk.
At that point, it's when the person doesn't care about facts or being a decent person. It's when they just hate trans people, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what.
I get it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's not like it's hard to be misinformed.
Yeah,
it's so easy, especially with social media. It's so easy to be misinformed. It's so easy to have groupthink.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
People get their pitchforks out all the fucking time for all kinds of reasons. We're talking about this transgender, these anti-transgender bills right now, but people get their pitchforks out all the fucking time.
All the time, and it's so
quickly
easy to just get sucked into it, even as like me as like a woke person, I definitely have caught myself going, oh, that must be bad, because I didn't take my part and do the research.
And then you do the research and you're like, oh, this doesn't even exist.
Why did I even do that to myself? Thank God I didn't retweet that and spew and also misinform my entire timeline. But we forgive you for being misinformed, but do your part in informing yourself
and others.
And others.
Another thing that you can do if you are a politically engaged kind of motherfucker is you can tell your senators to vote yes on the Equality Act. The Equality Act is a bill in the United States Congress that, if passed, would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity in employment, housing, public accommodations, education, federally funded programs, credit, and jury service. So lastly, but not leastly, because this is by no means a comprehensive list of things you can do, you can listen and learn from trans people about the real tea. And on that point, up next, we got Rob giving us the real tea about hormones, puberty blockers, and trans affirming healthcare. But first, an army of 1,000 LeBron James marches out. And what do? Let's make a Mad Lib. Do they do a tap dance? No, that's racist.
They just dunk on toddlers. So
I thought you were gonna say they dunk on top of each other, and then I imagine them all standing on each other's shoulders, which is making a very large person. But then they have to put on a trench coat. They have to put on a trench coat, and it's like that's not LeBron
James in a trench coat making one LeBron James.
That's not LeBron.
What are you?
James.
7 LeBron Jameses in a trench coat?
In fact, I am, nigga. So what's up?
And I'm still gonna dunk on your ass.
See this agility, nigga? Who's that agile with 7 people stacked on top of them? Other
LeBron
than
James.
Exactly. Oh man. All right. Well, is the conversation in this episode so far resonating with you? Is it helping you learn some new shit? Is it helping you unlearn some old shit? Or is it just allowing you to have a good ass time? You open up my earlobes. There you go. Niggas are yelling. They're saying that it sure is. And we love to hear that. If you would also we would also like for you to support the continuation of conversations like these. If you're listening to us on a podcast app, you can take a moment to subscribe to us or drop 5 stars and leave a rating for the homies. If you got a little extra change, you can drop some cash in our PayPal by going to paypal.me/innerho. Or you can come join our Patreon community and access our chat and virtual events for as low as $2 a month by going to patreon.com/innerhouprising. Or you can just hit up your friend and say, yo, listen to this podcast. It's a very good podcast. We thank and love you all for your continued support. Now, heart eyes, we're going to get into our topic of the day.
I shine bright, and all my different colors, We shine bright, in all our different colors,
Shout out to Amari Simone. Colors by Amari
That's
Simone.
a fucking good drop.
Yeah, it is.
Just slaps.
She did her fucking thing. She
Thank
did
you.
her fucking thing. She did what needed to be done.
Yes.
All right.
Needed to happen.
Yes, it did. We're getting into our topic of the day, where we do a deep dive. What are we deep diving into today, Rob?
We're deep diving into hormones. So what's the deal with that? I've been thinking about saying that for like 2 weeks. Like,
okay,
it's to the joke of airplane food.
I get it.
Do you?
My thing that's been running in my head for this is a remix, and I was actually gonna make it, but I ran out of time. I was gonna ask you to sing for it too, but I ran out of time. It's a remake of Hotline by Pretty Ricky, which is always in my head. And it's like, what was it? It's 5 a.m. and I'm up having I don't even remember what it was. Damn. Oh no. Hore-moans instead of so horny. It was around Hore-moans. Whatever. Maybe for the next time we talk about hormones.
I'm sure there's plenty to talk about with fucking hormones.
I'll further develop that.
Yeah. Write it down, and I got you with the vocals because I'm very interested in singing hormonies so bad. But hi niggas. So we're talking about hormones. What are hormones? What hormones do? Why niggas be using hormones, taking hormones,
Yeah.
and why we're talking about hormones. As Sam mentioned earlier about niggas hopping on the that's bad bandwagon. A lot of times it's also easy to hop on those bandwagons when you have no knowledge of the thing that is being spoken about.
Yes.
So it's very easy to form an opinion based on what other people tell you. So this is a chance to learn about a thing that you've probably heard about and possibly have. Well, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably did not hop on that bandwagon, but you've met people who did. And you can listen to this and be able to explain very clearly and concisely why niggas are getting you all the way fucked up. And this is pertaining to the overwhelming amount of legislation recently passed, and one of them being blocking, or let me back up. One of them being denying trans youth puberty blockers, for that to be like a criminal act. So I want to really outline the importance of puberty blockers for trans people and why it should not be denied. So let's get into this.
Going on a ride.
What's the deal with the hormones anyway? I mean,
I'm trying to think of a good Jerry Seinfeld pun, but I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah, me either. I don't think he's that funny, but I really like saying that. I don't know if he was the person who started that, but
he's definitely associated with it. I don't think anybody thinks Jerry Seinfeld is that funny, though I did like Seinfeld, the show.
Yes, but I mean him as a whatever. No, it's not a Jerry Seinfeld that nigga down convention. He has nothing to do with hormones, or maybe he does and we just don't know it. Oh, I turned off my video. Hold on, niggas. It's Jerry Seinfeld.
30 minutes.
What the fuck? What you talking about me, bro? Sorry.
How did I get in it? Now, how did I get in it?
What's the deal with your Zoom camera? All right. So what are hormones? Hormones are the chemical messengers in your body telling your body to do some shit. They travel in your bloodstream. They're like this. If they're doing that, they're like jumping, they're like knocking into like the walls of your capillaries.
They're fucking robots. Mine are robots, nigga. Shut up.
Well, I mean, if that's what your hormones are, I'm not judging them.
Yeah, don't judge my hormones. Sorry.
Whatever. But they travel in your bloodstream, they go to your tissues, they go to your organs. And hormones, they affect your mood. They affect your reproduction and your sexual function, growth and development, metabolism, and many countless, or they're probably not countless, but a lot of other processes in your body. Are is it endocrine or endocrine?
Endocrine.
Yeah, I be pronouncing stuff so incorrectly sometimes, and then people be making fun of me. But who cares? I say endocrine.
I'm crying.
Okay. And like that. The endocrine glands make hormones, such as the pineal gland, calcified, thyroid gland, adrenal glands, and that's just a few, but we have plenty. Also, hormones are produced in the ovaries and the testes. It only takes a little bit of hormones to cause a very big change in your body.
That's a fucking fact. When the progestin levels fucking rise and I'm tired as shit.
Boy,
fuck you.
Like, I think like a true test of hormones is if you menstruate. It's like the beginning of the cycle, like the literal, not your period, but the beginning of your physical cycle, and the hormones start picking up, and you're like, it's been a drop, and I'm ready to tear the world down.
It's just a different kind of 28 days. Like the first half of that 28 days is a lot different from the back half.
Yeah, it's hormones.
Yes.
I mean, what's the deal with hormones anyway? And with too little or too much hormones, it can cause a disorder, and diabetes is one of the most common endocrine disorders. So hormones, because insulin's a hormone, plays a really good part in that. There's even hormones secreted that regulate the water balance in your body.
Wow.
These are important. That's one of my favorite hormones. It's ADH. It like tells your body like, okay, kidneys, do your job, and your kidneys be like, okay. I know it had something to do with pee. That's really why
that's what I was thinking. I was like, does it make you pee?
It has something to do with
has PP properties.
It has PP. PP properties. So my question for you, Sam, is what is your favorite hormone?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't think I know enough about hormones to do my favorite hormone. But the nigga
You
who
know
I
some
have,
hormones.
the nigga who I have the most beef with is the progestin, because when it's fucking out of whack, I'm very tired, and I think
Looks
that
like Little
has
Kim.
that yeah. And that's just me like fucking dying on my bed or on the toilet when I have my period and before. Yeah.
All
So
right.
if I could fight a hormone, it would be that nigga. And I would just say, get it together.
And he's like, I'm just doing my job. Niggas literally just hormones be doing their job.
It's like, oh, your genes told me to do this, bitch.
I guess your fault. Take that with your fucking genetics.
Blame your lineage, nigga.
It had
I'm
nothing
like,
to do
okay,
with me.
fine.
My favorite hormone is ghrelin. Is how you say it?
That's a cool name. It sounds like a Dragon Ball Z character.
Maybe it is, and we just don't fucking know.
Goku and Krillin. Yeah,
Krillin, but it's ghrelin. Ghrelin, it is a hunger stimulant. And I am the hungriest nigga that I know right now. I be so hungry. Every time we go on Patreon, I'm always eating.
Nigga do be eating though.
I be fucking hungry, bro. And so one time my antidepressants, it suppressed my hunger for like months. I lost a ton of weight. I wasn't able to eat for mad long. And when I got on this other medication and I got my hunger back, that stimulant, I was like, I can eat. It was just beautiful. I'm like, I've never taken ghrelin for granted. Like, I love you.
Nigga reunited and it feels so good.
Yes, ghrelin. I was so happy to see you again. So, what are puberty blockers? What are we really here for?
What's the deal with those anyways?
I mean, they're fucking puberty blockers.
Little mama enters the chat because she really cares about this shit.
Let me tell you about puberty blockers. And little mama has nothing to say because she knows absolutely fucking nothing. But puberty blockers, they postpone puberty in children by inhibiting the release of sex hormones, including estrogen and testosterone. And I didn't put this down, but let's back up. What's puberty? Puberty is that stage that you go through that your sex hormones are being produced and you start having secondary sex characteristics pop up, such as growing facial hair, voice changes, boobs starting to fill in, hips widening, just acne, body hair and scents coming out of your armpits and stuff. All of those are secondary sex characteristics, and puberty is the beginning of that. Also, like the beginning of puberty, usually for people with vaginas, it's like marked by like your period. Menarche. You said what?
Menarche. It's a biological name for your first period.
Oh, what?
I paid attention in 6th grade, nigga.
They didn't talk about periods in Catholic school.
Good point.
Skip that part. But good point. Yes, when menarche happens, people with coochies, that's usually around the time they go through puberty. So puberty blockers, they delay secondary sex characteristics. So they'll delay your breast development, voice change, facial hair. And let me back up even more. Primary sex characteristics are the penis, scrotum, testicles, and the uterus, ovary, and vaginas. So those are the differences between those bad boys. So for puberty blockers, there are injections that can be monthly, or they can be every 2, 4, 6 months. And they contain I'm so bad with like medications. There's so many.
Leuprorelin?
Yes, leuprorelin. The tongue rings, man, just messing up my pronunciation. And there's also an implant that you can get that you change every 12 months, and it contains hystrelin. And there's also a combination that can be used to suppress male puberty as an alternative, because sometimes those kinds of puberty blockers don't work to suppress male characteristics.
Gotcha.
And the side effects, which are still, everything has side effects, they can have an effect on bone density and future fertility. Of course, because you are messing with sex hormones, essentially. So that can affect you in the future, but it's not a side effect that happens every time. Not at all.
So would you say it's by no means common, or it is common?
I cannot say that.
Okay.
I think I started to dive into that, but when you actually when you try to find side effects of puberty blockers, what pops up is it's never a website that is credible.
It's
all of this
these
anti-trans
conservative
propaganda.
people.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's wild, and I'm like, I'm not gonna go through.
It's the oil industry paying for climate change research.
It's so bad. I went through like 3 pages, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna stop. I feel like the only way you can find out the truth about these kinds of things, like from a scientific standpoint, is to have access to peer-reviewed literature. And I don't, so here we are using open source and not finding out anything. But those 2 side effects were the only thing that I did find from a credible website.
Gotcha.
So how do cisgender people use them? So they're used for people whose puberty starts abnormally early, which is called precocious puberty. Anyway,
like when you're 9 and you get your
puberty.
Period.
Say again?
Like when you're 9 and you get your period.
Yes, or when you're like 9 and you start to grow breasts. Like I had a girl in my 2nd grade class. I guess we were like 8 or 7, and she was grown pretty very large breasts. So she was going through precocious puberty. Also used for children with idiopathic short stature. That just means that a short stature that's not explained by any other health condition. And hormones can be used to elongate bones and increase adult height. I'm
LeBron
sure that's
James.
probably 100 LeBron James.
Not fact check.
But I'm sure that is probably the science in between. Elongating the bones probably has something to do with the bone density.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Long but brittle bones. I don't know where we at. And so, of course, as I said, like it's either you find pro-trans sources or anti-trans sources, but there are really no neutral sources on puberty blockers.
Like I would just like to study puberty blockers.
Yes,
you go.
It's like maybe I found like 2 pages on that, and I also couldn't find the use of puberty blockers outside of delaying puberty for scientific or mental aspects. So there was this rumor about Justin Bieber using puberty blockers to keep his childish voice, because of course he's gonna go through puberty, and that nigga do not sound like that. We gonna get it, bro. Like he has a really deep voice. It's still, he still sounds very good, but he was selling because of his boy-like voice. And there was a rumor that he used puberty block, or not him, but like his managers had him use puberty blockers to prolong that point, I guess, maybe until they found new direction for him to go to, so they can market him as an older person.
Oh no, he said a new direction for him to go to. I think he said till they found one direction in the band.
Also that, I guess,
his role in life was just replaced by One Direction.
By a whole nother band.
Do they have high voices? What is their song? I don't care. Sorry.
I have no fucking idea. I'm listening to these white boys. But but that was just a rumor, and I thought about all the other child stars, if that's a common thing in the music industry. However, if you search puberty blockers plus singers in quotations, which denies other search results,
Boolean search terms.
Yeah, I learned that in college, but nothing pops up. So
fucking Justin Bieber had it expunged from the like, you will never know my secret.
I figured like if anything, there should have been something that would have popped up that said that does not happen. But it was just like,
can neither confirm nor deny.
But I'm like, if somebody came up with that, I'm like, that is a very valid thought though.
Interesting to explore.
Yeah. But you can't, because the internet hates trans people and puberty blockers. But yeah, there isn't any other research on how cis people use puberty blockers, but
they do use them.
They do use them. They definitely do use them. Of course, statistically,
one might reason that they were the first people to use them. Actually,
one would 100% reason that, and one would reason that they are the highest consumers.
Dum dum dum.
There are
Makes
way
a lot
more
of sense.
cis people in the world than there are trans people, and there are way more cis children in the world than there are trans people, statistically speaking.
Even if you're gonna break it down, there's probably just way more cis children with parents who would like them to go on puberty blockers than trans affirming parents.
just statistically speaking. So who's the enemy? There is no enemy. Stop making it up, y'all. But anywho,
what did Shirley Chisholm say? Divisive politics. It's a bad Shirley Chisholm. I'm so sorry.
Play the drop again. But how do trans people use them? So it's used to treat gender dysphoria in children. And suppressing puberty in dysphoric children can reduce depression and anxiety, eliminate the need for future surgeries, reduce depression and anxiety, as well as the thoughts associated with it. Yeah. For those assigned male at birth, puberty blockers decrease the growth of facial and body hair, prevents the deepening of the voice, and limits the growth of the genitals. For those assigned female at birth, puberty blocker limits or stops breast development and delays or halts menstruation. Aren't you proud that I stopped saying menstruation?
I'm proud if you're proud, but your slips of the tongues never de-prouded me. They didn't de-proud me. They didn't make me any less proud of you as a person.
It was just if y'all niggas didn't know,
Rob said did say menstruation.
Yes. PMDD episode, and you pointed it out, and I was like, oh, that's not how it's pronounced. It's also not how it's spelled. But
yeah, I don't know how that got in there, but it's
I've been spelling it wrong my whole life, but here we are.
You know, English is a lie.
It is a whole fucking lie, and that word is mad difficult, but it'd be like that sometimes. Anywho, it doesn't cause permanent changes in an adolescent's body. However, it just pauses puberty and provides a chance to determine if the gender identity is long lasting. Because remember, just like a person can transition, they can also detransition. Gender is fluid, and gender affirming surgery is a lot more permanent than puberty blocker. So it's cool to have a chance to say this is actually what I want, or be like, okay, this was cool, but I actually don't want to do this.
Can I cut in 1 second? There's also like a kind of paternalistic thing that people place on everybody, because it's a fucking patriarchal society, but that people place on trans people when it comes to like gender affirming surgery, when it comes to would it be called primary sex characteristics? So for example, like removing your ovaries, or like doing gender affirming surgery on your genitals. I'm just gonna call it that. And like that reminds me of the same kind of paternalistic thing that's placed on cisgender women, for example, when it comes to like, oh, are you sure you want to remove your uterus? Yeah. Are you sure you want to do this or whatever? And it's like, these are big fucking decisions that the person thinks about. Same thing with abortion. Like, niggas are not just doing shit willy-nilly. Like, you are not anybody's fucking parent. You are not the arbiters of their life. Yes, these are big decisions, and niggas think about these big decisions before they're making them. They're just not like, let me chop this off and mix this up and rearrange that shit. 1, 2, when it doesn't fucking fit into when it fits into something that you like, as opposed to transness or whatever, you're like okay with like your favorite fucking Instagram model, quote unquote, chopping up her body. So what's the issue? What's the difference here? It's transphobia.
Yes, 100%. There's literally no difference, except that one is like catering, or one is something that you're interested in, and one is something that you're not attracted to.
Right.
You hate trans people, just say it. But if the decision is more permanent, trans children use cross hormone therapy, and that, I guess, it's more similar to human hormone replacement therapy, hormone replacement therapy. And those can be considered to bring out the secondary characteristics of the desired gender. So how do intersex people use them? So some people who are intersex, they go through puberty later than usual. Some intersex people do not go through puberty at all, and then that's when they find out then that they are actually intersex. And they usually need, or they do need, human replacement therapy. Oh my god,
what's going on over there, Rob? You have a secret to share with us?
It's not me.
Mad scientist.
It's not me. I'm Nigonometry. I mean, the scientist, Rob Nash. But they need hormone replacement therapy in order to go through puberty. And some intersex people may go through puberty, but their body doesn't align. Okay, hold on. Okay, the other one fell.
Got a headphone
Can't
drop.
keep headphones up. Where am I at? Yes, some intersex people may go through puberty, but their body doesn't align with their gender identity. For example, some boys with certain syndromes may grow breasts, and some girls may grow facial hair or have their voices deepen. And those kids may use puberty blockers for the same reasons that trans kids do.
Makes sense to me.
But also, I found like one resource on intersex people and puberty blockers, like one or two.
There's that hierarchy.
I'm sure I'd have to go down an intersex Google wormhole to find more shit, but it should be so much more apparent than that. Yeah, like this, there should be a document or a website that has exactly what I have in this document right now.
Hey, and that's why the Interho Uprising is fucking resourced. Does your favorite podcast have citations in their show notes?
No. Yes, they probably do. If they're
this is your favorite podcast, bitch. Or our friendship podcast.
Yes, or our homies. You know, I'm not even gonna continue. So gonna go down a bad path. So why do niggas hate puberty blockers, right? Because niggas hate trans people.
Dum dum dum.
So I'm gonna give a content warning for suicide.
You can check the link in the show notes. Yep.
Yes.
Where to skip to.
So statistics. 50% or 52% of trans youth seriously considered suicide in the past 12 months, according to the Trevor Project's 2020 survey. 52% of trans youth. That's very, very high, right? American Academy of Pediatrics in 2018 reported attempted suicide rates, or the highest attempted suicide rates among trans boys and non-binary youth. That's more than half attempted suicide, with 29 for boys. More than half of the boys attempted suicide, and 29.9% of trans girls attempted suicide. Still extremely fucking high.
Yeah, that's way too high.
Only 1 in 5 trans and non-binary youth reported having their pronouns respected by most or all people in their lives, and the suicide attempts were half the rate of those not respected by anyone. So even a little bit of respect reduces.
Goes a long way.
Yeah, just a little bit.
The fuck should I care about a pronoun? Because never in my life am I gonna use a pronoun.
So they need to find another pronoun to use. Well, there you go.
Your listeners suck and they're stupid. Clearly the we're still angry about that.
I mean, the wormhole is so easy to open up when you're talking about trans people and you're talking to me in this capacity, because this episode needs to. All right, anyway,
just share this episode with your ignorant friends.
And your ignorant podcast. The statistic, but this is the statistic, right? The statistic. 14% of trans and non-binary youth who had access to clothes that can help shape their gender identity attempted to take their lives. Well, I wrote that. Oh yeah, okay. I didn't write that correctly. Let me back up.
You want me to add?
Yes, take that out.
The 2.
You said what?
Am I taking out the 2?
Taking out the 2?
What am I taking out? Oh, everything. You mean cut what you're saying in the podcast?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant cut out of the show notes. Okay.
Yeah, all right, just cut that because I fucked it up.
Start from the statistic, yeah.
The statistic: 14% of trans and non-binary youth who had access to clothes that can help shape their identity attempted to take their lives, and that's compared to the 26% who had no access. So even just a difference in appearing in the gender that you identify with decreases your risk for suicide. And when trans people pass, and that is having the physical characteristics of the gender that you identify with, and people not being able to tell that you are trans, the suicide risk becomes that of the general population. So being seen as trans increases the risk significantly, and blocking puberty can literally give trans youth a fighting chance.
Wow.
That's a lot of, suicide off rip is the second leading cause of death in young adults. And I think it's might be the first leading cause in trans adults, obviously.
So high.
not
So
trans
high.
adults, trans youth. But I mean, it's high in general for trans people.
Yeah.
The risk is ridiculous, and it decreases just with those little things. But could you imagine just passing, and your risk just becomes that of just the regular ass population, something that small.
Two things on that note. It's like such a fucked up conundrum. Like the reason why that is because if society wasn't as transphobic, I don't think passing would matter that much.
No,
because people would just be like, yo, I'm out here living my life, like
exactly,
dress, full beard, like however I want to look, whatever. So it's like you're just getting fucked on both sides. It's like, nigga, you don't want me to be trans, but you also don't want me to pass. So you want me to die.
Yes.
Like that's literally what these fucking things are saying, like legislation and people like this. That's literally what they're saying. And then second thing, like it reminds me of like the Trace Strangio quote or whatever, and our like 100 LeBron James's joke. Like, one, that is not happening. But even if it fucking was, hell yeah, I want 100 like fucking great basketball players to be dunking on fifth graders as opposed to people killing themselves.
Yes.
Like, it's like
you might get your feelings hurt if you lose a game, but you're gonna ruin a family's life if their child takes theirs because you won't allow them to exist.
Exactly. And it's like, even what they're pitting it against is shit that you don't even fucking care about. So like this reminds me of some research I was doing into Kelly Loeffler, who was the person who was appointed to Georgia's governorship before they had their runoff election. So she was beat by Raphael Warnock, who's the current governor of Georgia, senator, governor, one of those, sorry. I think it's senator, yeah. So when she was running her campaign, she was very much using these kinds of anti-trans athletes kinds of ads to push her agenda forward and saying like, liberals like Warnock want your child to be destroyed on the court and shit like that or whatever.
Yes.
The funny thing is Kelly Loeffler was or some portion owner of a WNBA team, like the team in Georgia, the Atlanta Dream. And it's like her team was so annoyed and pissed at her because they're mostly Black and they're like, you're doing things that are like anti-Black Lives Matter and shit like that. And she's not even listening to the whole team of female athletes that she owns. Like, she owns this team, but over here she's talking about, yeah, I care so much about women athletes. No, the fuck you don't. You've proven that you don't care about women athletes. These people don't even care about women, point blank, period. You think they care about some little girl athletes?
No.
The fuck? These are the same people who are trying to like overturn protections for women in college who are more likely to be like sexually assaulted and shit like that. You don't give a fuck about girls who are in school. So you don't care about them and you're trying to kill trans people all at the same time. Yes. And I just wish people would understand that instead of being like little mama and being like, oh, we have to protect our rights. Like, nigga.
Nobody's infringing on your
exactly.
rights. Your rights are there.
The same people who are infringing on your rights are the same niggas who are infringing on trans people's rights. That's all you got to understand, nigga.
We all have common enemies.
Right.
But the difference is I also have an enemy within you.
Yeah.
So I have extra enemies.
Yeah.
There's no backup for trans people. It's like everybody hates you for all these other reasons, and then the niggas who are not trans hate you just for your existence. So it's like it's all knives against you, back against the wall a lot of the times. And one thing that's important to note, it's that it's not inherently that, and I think we might have discussed this at some point. I think maybe talking about gender dysphoria across cultures, how it doesn't really exist. Right. So it's not like these high rates of suicide and suicide attempts are indicative of gender dysphoria. They're indicative of how people view transness, and they're addicted how people treat transness. Right. I'm sure that a child who is just merely existing and nobody says anything about them not subscribing to a particular gender role, they will not, of course, people experience depression and anxiety for all kinds of reasons, but it wouldn't be because of their gender. It would be the normal rates that happen in society. Right. So the experiences that trans people have with their mental health struggles are completely, for the most part, it's executive of society and how society treats them.
It's very much like, for example, Black people are more likely to have a host of health issues. But like, let's talk about COVID-19, for example. It's not because we're Black why we have higher rates of death because of COVID-19. It's like structural.
Yes.
It's like, that's the reason. That's the
It's
underlying
systemic.
thing. That's the illness.
Not merely existing how you are, but how other people view you, and then all the things that you lose access to because of that.
Yeah.
It's not like trans people are at higher risk because of their biology.
Right.
So it's just this is all super important to me, because it's like I really need y'all niggas to understand that the risk for puberty blockers health-wise is the same for trans kids as it is for cis kids. And trans kids are not, hold on, sorry.
No problem.
That's my mom, and I can talk to her later. Trans kids are not, damn, what the fuck was I saying?
The risk for trans kids and cis kids.
Yeah, so the risk for trans kids is the same for cis kids as far as the side effects for puberty blockers go. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, everything is falling apart right now. People are suddenly calling me and messaging me when I'm trying to get out this fucking point. They're like, I hate trans
That's
people.
the Jerry Seinfeld effect. You shouldn't have fucked with him.
What's the deal with trans kids anyway? I mean, you know, they're just out here.
I love and support them.
They're just out here being the best they can be. I don't understand. What's the deal with it? I don't understand. But it's so if you're blocking the access to it specifically for trans children, what is your argument for not blocking it for cis children if it's that unhealthy? It's not as if it permanently deletes things. Yeah. You know, just like if you have if you're a late bloomer, it's not as if you never developed titties. In the first place, yeah. If I didn't get titties at 13, I'm never getting titties. It's really not the case. It's not how it works. Yeah. And of course, if for some reason you were to have those issues, there's still medical interventions to fix that. Yeah. It's not the end all be all. Oh my God, I took puberty blockers and I want titties now. I didn't grow titties. It's not as if you can't ever have titties. Of course, depends on your access to what kind of medical access you have, but it's not that it is permanent by
like suicide is, for example.
Exactly. It's not permanent. It's not permanent biologically. Yeah. And honestly, it should not be that hard to have access if you wanted titties to get some titties.
It really shouldn't. Like, what's the big deal about titties?
What's the deal with titties anyway? I mean, they're just, they're just
sacks of flesh. Like,
just hanging
can
out
be
on the
recreated
chest.
by. I don't know what's in breast implants. I'm sorry.
I mean, you got the silicone. You do like the.
I thought that was phased out, so I wasn't sure.
Well, there's things.
Just bags of some. Yeah.
It's just things that people put in titties, surgeries that they just have to lift up titties and reshape titties. I mean, it's just so many things you could do with different parts of your body. And if you're not regulating it for cis people, you regulating it for trans people doesn't make any sense. There isn't an agenda push. If there is a child who says, I do not feel like this person that everybody wants me to be, who are you to say, no, you're supposed to feel this way, so you must feel this way. Yeah. There is no fucking other way. You're a child. You can't tell me how you feel. Like, this child is literally living their lives. You know what gender is, gender roles, what is prescribed to you very fucking quickly. Very quickly, just even by the way that teachers treat you in school. Yeah. So you know what you fuck with and you know what you don't fuck with. And if you don't, that's okay.
That's okay.
You can be cis.
Who doesn't have yeah, you can just fucking explore something and then that's not for me, I'm not exploring it anymore. Precisely. And like society has these very like, okay, that's okay until this point, like these very like harsh boundaries. Like, why is it okay for like cis girls to have like, oh yeah, I'm a tomboy now and this is how I'm dressing and this is what I'm doing and now I'm not doing that anymore, or I grew up and I'm still doing that. Like why are you putting a fucking hard push on what kids can explore and what they can't explore?
Exactly. Especially when it's like less than 1% of kids are gonna go through this thing. It's such a small percentage on top of everything. So it's like you're pushing this agenda and your argument is that we're harming kids and you don't even have the data to prove it because there's such few trans people and they are understudied 100%.
And then you're
So
harming kids by doing all this.
You're
on top of
100%
it.
harming them. You're just like, okay, cool. I want to push this thing. So you might die in the fucking process, but also it is what it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a lot of levels. And of course, we didn't have time to dive in to hormones and how they play in athletics. Because that is a whole nother fucking episode. But just know that that's a whole nother episode. And I really hope, regardless of how educated you are, that you re-educate yourself in these policies that are in place. You find out what you can do. You find out if it's affecting the people around you, and you make sure that you offer that support, whether that's verbal or monetary, and niggas love money. And just know that this shit is not a game. Like what I posted for Trans Day Visibility, which was March 31st, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
That we are more visible than ever right now. And we're also equally invisible. The wildest fucking concept. Like, we're visible because obviously they know we exist, and that's why they're posting, they're trying to pass all these legislators. They're acknowledging our existence, but it reminds me much of slavery, when they would call Black people brutes, and we were animals, we were this and we were that, but they'd have to humanize us when it came to like runaway slave ads, describing you as this complete human that you are, but you were a fucking brute, but I have to describe you as a human because that's what you are. I have to give you these human characteristics. And that it's just like the comparison, it's just all fucked up. It's like it all comes full circle. I don't want to acknowledge you until I need to acknowledge you. And I feel like a lot of these policies come out not because these niggas actually care, because they don't, but it wins them favor.
Oh yeah,
it wins them a ton of favor in these white conservative Christian communities.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing this thing that I do not give a fuck about, but now that you pointed it out, I give a fuck about it, and I'm so happy you're doing something about it.
Now I'm so scared. It's like fake moral. I mean, all moral panics are fake, but it's a fake moral panic to get votes.
100%.
And that's what it's always been. Like that's the whole playbook I'm talking about with this. Yeah, you know what, that is bad. Like, instead of actually fixing something in this fucked up ass country, let me just make something up, make people scared of it, make them vote for me because I'm quote unquote fixing it.
And I really hope that this conversations like these don't fall to the wayside once these kinds of policies are no longer hot in the media.
Yeah, because they are always coming, even if it's not in the form of, like, even if the next target is intersex kids, for example, or some intersection of the oppressed identities or whatever, it is still the same playbook, and it affects, like, it's going to harm everybody. So, like, stand up now, do some shit now.
Do some shit. Support your niggas.
Yeah.
We really be out here. And I wonder, like, if I had access to puberty blockers, would I have taken them? But I really wanted titties, so probably not. But that's what
I'm sure it would have been nice knowing that exists,
yes, to have the comfort in going, you know, if I wanted to not do this thing and figure it out, I could. You know, having that access to it. But that is also, you know, goes to show that just because it's there doesn't mean that niggas 100% would be like, oh no, I'm doing this.
Yeah, I mean, everybody who's trans doesn't have like surgery on their genitals, for example.
Everybody who's trans does not
take hormone
human replacement therapy.
Yeah.
Human. they don't.
Does anybody who's trans take human? What does that mean?
I do.
Inject niggas.
I've replaced myself.
Okay, there you go.
Not honestly, you
Genesis.
do, because your cells regenerate.
There you go. We are all taking human replacement therapy
every day, baby. Regeneration. But yeah, like, you know, not everybody does
New
these
Body
things.
by Nicki Minaj, please.
New Body by Rob Minaj. But it's, you know, it's like the same way that there was the argument that if you came out with PrEP, that niggas would stop using condoms. And a study reported that, you know, it happened with increased condom usage.
There you go.
Because niggas were aware. It's like you can't just assume because niggas have access to it that they're gonna be doing shit all willy-nilly, because, as you said, people think about these things. And especially if it's you know, of course, if you're a child, you know, you're not making these decisions on your own because you're still a fucking child, and you have like no frontal lobe. But if this is a conversation between you and your parents are not going to go, oh, fuck it, let's just do it. Like, if they really truly cared about you and felt that, you know, it was something that through conversation, of course, with their child, that was like, you know, this wasn't the thing that you needed, because you have to weigh the benefits and the risks. That's a caring family. But I don't see a not caring family going, all right, yeah, fuck it, whatever, give this fucking child some fucking puberty blockers. Like, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and I surely don't see an instance where a kid doesn't even want puberty blockers, but their parent does want them to, and then they go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, me too. Like, I don't think that that's fucking happening. This is another 100 LeBron Jameses scenario. Like, stop making stuff up when people.
Nobody will force their child to be trans. That's something I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Forcing their children to be trans. It's usually the fucking opposite.
Same playbooks. Oh, fucking what is it? I don't even know. When Mr. Ratburn was gay, oh, that's gonna make kids gay. Did it also make us teachers and rats? Do we know Arthur now? Like, what are you talking about?
Niggas actually became aardvarks. Just so we can take part.
Yellow sweaters everywhere for everybody.
Just doesn't make sense. Stop making shit up. Protect fucking trans youth for real.
Yep.
Wasn't that John Cheadle who wore that shirt?
I don't know, but I wouldn't.
Black person.
Seems like a good guy.
Protect trans kids. We are really out here. I'm a trans kid too.
I'm a big kid now.
Pulls up Calvin Klein bra, but titty sitting.
We got to get you on these teams, man. You got. That's another. I do want to have a conversation about sports though, because where do non-binary people fit on teams? In binary gendered sports, so that we don't fucking like OD go into mad tangents, but real fast. So if you niggas didn't know, I do powerlifting. I've never competed, but it's something that I've always been interested in, and I will be competing in July. Ooh.
Yes, and I didn't send out any details because I'm like, let me just make sure I'm actually going to do this shit. But I think I'm actually going to do it. Cool. But my coach, she sent me a couple, I think it was like an article with trans-friendly powerlifting leagues.
Cool.
And their policies with trans people. And so I don't fuck it up, I'm not going to actually name the leagues. Besides USPL, the act like the most, one of the, or USAPL, one of the most powerlifting, one of the biggest powerlifting leagues, they have a trans policy, which is it's very inclusive. It's not completely inclusive. It's very inclusive. And one of the things with gender nonconforming, it's like there's it's kind of like there was a category for it.
Oh, okay.
Like niggas, I think it just went by height and weight kind of thing, and not by gender.
I think that's how sports should go in general.
It'd make life a lot easier if you go by height and weight. And, you know, of course, like we already know that there are certain biological differences, but it does not account completely for raw strength when you really get down to it. But there were other leagues like that. But then there were some murky waters where you could only have like a certain amount of a certain hormone in your blood to compete. This
is why I really want to have this conversation, because sports are weird. Objectively, sports are fucking weird. Like, I enjoy football, but why does football exist? Like, these niggas just get CTE left and right. That's fucking odd. There's a lot of strange shit. They work for cis people, and then like they also work for like men and who society deems to be men. Because like, for example, like gymnastics, like people who are cisgender women are better at gymnastics than cisgender men because it's just how their bodies are. But like nobody gives a fuck about gymnastics, and like there aren't that many sports that like prioritize those kinds of bodies as opposed to those kinds of bodies. And that could be said with anything in regards to your body. Like They also prioritize people who are able-bodied. They also prioritize people who are not fat and things like that. But like, we could have sports could look way different if we prioritize different people.
Yes. I 100% agree. You know what? How about this, niggas? If you fuck with the vibe, hit subscribe. No, if you fuck with this episode and you want to hear hormones part two, like, what's the deal with hormones in sports anyway? I mean, it's just sports. Drop a comment.
Yeah.
Drop a comment on any of the social media platforms, on Patreon. If you are a patron, you can drop it on the Slack chat.
Yeah.
But let us know, because this was a lot of work. And I would not mind doing a lot of work part two, but I do want to know if you guys are are you digging the vibes?
Love us out loud, niggas.
Real.
You've been too silent lately.
Because I
give a fucking rating and review.
Feel like the podcast sometimes that we get paired up with in the top podcast, those other podcasts, specific podcasts, they do not do this research.
Yeah,
they do not do this research. So I would like our flowers to be seen, so I can make sure that I know it's not in vain, because I see what you guys are saying, but I really want to make sure that you are really fucking with this trans vision, that you're really out here representing for it. You
gotta love trans people out loud when they're doing the work, not just when they fucking get abused on other platforms.
Side eye, side eye, side eye.
Side eye.
Okay.
That could be a segment bump in itself. All right. Should we end the episode now?
Let's end this bitch.
Okay. If this episode made you laugh, helped you learn something, made you feel good, made you question yourself in a good way, or positively moved you in any sense, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, and let everyone you know that you love these hoes.
Email blast
out loud.
Send a WhatsApp mass message.
Put everybody on BCC though, otherwise it's just bad email etiquette.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. BCC, so it just goes to one person, but it actually goes to everybody. Yeah. Make sure you practice good social skills. Yeah. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can do so in a whole uprising without the G on Twitter, in a whole uprising on Instagram and Facebook, and you can join our Facebook community by searching In a Whole Uprising Community. That's spelled CUMMUNITY. And also head to innerwholeuprising.com to pay a hoe. And if you want to follow a hoe named Rob, that hoe, that bad bitch, I'm smoking PP, smoking the PP, smoking PP on Instagram. I'm _body on Twitter.
I'm Slam Rid on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me for drum covers of songs that you didn't ask for and weird pictures of nasty food.
And look out for me and Sam's collab.
Oh yeah, we starting to abandon this bitch, nigga.
Facts. We're gonna be called Wig Crucifix.
There you go. I like
because
it.
Since Wig Crucifix Studio doesn't quite exist right now, it's gonna be us.
It's pretty fucking metal.
We're gonna shoot our music videos on a tennis court.
I would watch it. If I wasn't a part of it, I would watch it and I would enjoy it. You can also join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional by visiting betterhelp.com/IHU to get 10% off your first month. Have a lovely week, because you motherfucking deserve to.
You sure do. Shout out to my trans niggas. Hey,
That's a fact.
Bye, niggas.
Bye.